Hey, everybody. I'm Matt.
I'm Deanna.
And this is Chasing Balance. Man, we have had a couple of crazy past 2 weeks.
We really have. I don't think we've stopped at all any of the days.
I mean,
it's
we
just
had
go.
spring break, and spring break was full of doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
And then at the end of spring break, we found out that our up north house had an ice storm there. So a bunch of trees fell on our house, so we had to make insurance claims. I mean, we didn't get the worst of it.
No, we definitely didn't. Not by far.
Down here was tornado sirens, tornado warnings at the same time that trees were falling on our house up north.
Springtime has really changed.
Yeah, it has. And then obviously sports have ramped up. So soccer, football, 2 kids in soccer, football, practice games, all that stuff.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that you and I were talking about that, how Tornado Alley is shifting up more east towards us.
Indiana and Michigan.
Which I guess makes sense because we've had like an insane amount of tornadoes increasing over the years. I don't know what's going on in like Kansas or anything like that. But the craziest thing, and I feel like I brought it on, was the night before the recent tornado happened. Yeah. I watched, not even the night before. I had finished Twister.
Yeah,
and then 20 minutes later, the tornado sirens went on and I was like, okay, I'm prepared. I feel prepared. I don't have Dorothy, but I feel prepared.
Now listen, anybody that's listening right now, you may not know that Michigan doesn't get a ton of tornadoes, but we've had all of the tornadoes that we typically get already.
For the year.
For the year. And it's only April 19th at the time of recording this. And a few years ago, up in northern Michigan, they had a tornado. And it's so rare that they have tornadoes up there that they don't have tornado sirens.
Yeah.
And it just ripped through these mobile home parks and everything. And a lot of people didn't have warning. You know, I guess if they had cell phones and whatnot, then maybe they would have got a national weather warning there. But yeah, they don't have tornado sirens up in those locations. Which is crazy.
It is crazy.
So
on a different note.
On a different note. This episode, we're talking about how we were raised versus how we raise our kids.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense that over time, parenting kind of evolves a bit,
right?
Or it stays the same, essentially. So I think that the way that we were raised probably is a better version of what our parents had experienced as children.
Right.
And then, going back generation and generation.
It's kind of like you want to give your kids more than what you had.
Exactly.
Where you also want to raise your kids better than you were raised.
Right.
Not saying that our parents did an awful job or the parents before them or our grandparents or great-grandparents, but you always find things that worked for you and didn't work for you, and you kind of alter the way through the generations on how you raise your children.
Exactly. And I don't think that, I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but I don't think that we are terrible parents at all.
No, not in our eyes.
I am perfect. No. But I also know that when our kids have children of their own, I'm sure they're going to go back and reflect on that and then and adjust from there.
Oh, they're going to hate stuff that we did.
Oh, 100%.
Like we hate stuff that our parents did.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's kind of talk a little bit about the way that we were raised.
Okay.
So what were some of the things that you experienced as a kid? And I know, so you are one of 4 kids.
One of 4, yep.
Yep. And
3
then
boys, 1 girl.
You're smack dab in the middle.
Smack dab in the
middle to end.
Lower end.
Yeah.
So I was the 3rd kid out of 4 that in that birthing order. Yeah. How we were raised, I mean, we had punishments, we did get spankings, and I know that's just, oh my God, I can't believe your parents spanked you. You never spank a kid. Oh my God, you're going to scar him for life. I wasn't scarred for life from getting spanked. And I'm pretty sure that 9 times out of 10, I actually deserved it. So, I wasn't one of those kids that, listened to their parents. Threats didn't work with me. So, sometimes that little swat on the behind was absolutely deserved. So, no, there's no hard feelings there or anything. And so that was punishment. My parents were encouraging as far as, trying new things. Except for other, certain things they didn't really, push us on it, which, or me, they didn't push me on certain things that I just gave up on. And I think, we talked about that in another episode. I forget what title that was called.
I mean, like reflecting back on it, do you feel like it was like, oh, that's probably going to be a pain in the ass, so maybe we don't really push that?
No, I mean, I
No?
think everybody had their hands full,
Okay.
my parents and just like your parents, they weren't as blessed to be able to work from home.
Yeah.
Right. So my dad's gone. That's one thing I also learned, as far as my upbringing is the work ethic, having that, out there working all the time, whether that's good or bad, because, we missed out on vacations, things of that nature, because my dad had to work. So I did learn that work ethic. However, I think my mom just had her hands full.
Yeah.
She had 4 kids, 4 crazy different ages. At one point it would have been 1 in college, 2 in high school, and 1 in middle school.
Gross.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Right.
And also your parents are together.
Yeah, my parents were married. And discipline, it is what it is. I got stuff taken away, toys taken away, grounded to my room, grounded from going outside, getting my butt spanked, stuff that was deserved because I wasn't listening to my parents. Family dynamics, yeah, my parents were together the entire time until my mom passed away. And then values, we have the same values, I think, in this house that we did when I was a kid, which is, own your own shit, try hard, don't lie, and listen, be a good person. That's really all it is, right? I think the big difference is we were told to go to church.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we were raised Presbyterian Christians, and no matter how much I didn't want to go on a Sunday, we were told we had to go to church. So that was what we were told to believe in. And as I'm sure we'll discuss later, we don't make our kids go to church. We don't force belief systems on our kids. We want them to make their own decisions when they get older about faith, religion, God, all that stuff.
Yes. And that, on that note, I fully endorse and support any decision that our kids will make, and I will help them come to that conclusion. I will help give them the tools and knowledge and books and whatever they want once they further and, explore that path.
Right.
And if it works for them, then that's amazing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's at the core of it. That's what it's all about. Right.
Yeah.
Just finding something for you to believe in, finding something that works for you, that connects to what your beliefs are.
Forced upon you either.
Right.
There are kids in this neighborhood, in the neighborhood that we live in. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And they will come over, they'll be jumping in the trampoline or something. They'll be jumping the trampoline with our kids, and all of a sudden they'll just start talking about Jesus and hell and
cats, how cats are
cats
satanic.
are the devil. Yeah, cats are satanic. And it's like, where in the hell did you hear this shit? And it almost gets to the point where it's like, I don't want my kids hanging.
Is there Kool-Aid involved in your religion?
I don't want my kids hanging around with these kids, but it's not, the neighborhood kids' fault. It's what they're fed.
Yeah. So we do have a lot of conversations, like dinner conversations about that. And then, not necessarily saying that they're wrong.
It's like, I don't know what they believe in.
Right.
I don't know enough about that.
Right.
You guys can make your own decision.
And
I think they're fucking nuts.
It's more,
we don't say that.
Yeah, no, it's more like, okay, well, what do you think they meant by that? And do you think that feels right? Or do you feel like, well, how do you feel about that? And then, if they want to further go into that, then that's their choice.
Right.
Honestly.
So now talk about your upbringing. Talk about so how were you disciplined?
I really wasn't. I don't.
It explains a lot.
Well, I mean, you had to have been acknowledged to get discipline.
Wow.
No, that might have been a little harsh,
that
but
was harsh.
So I came from I come from a family that's a little bit not divided, but broken in a way. There's
I was
a
going
lot
to say broken. I didn't want to say that, but separated.
Separated.
Yeah.
So I'm one of 7 kids, and I'm the baby.
Yeah.
Between me and my oldest sibling is roughly a 20-year age gap.
Surprise baby.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely was. I mean, my parents were 40.
Right.
But anyway, so as a kid, I don't think that I really wasn't disciplined in years that I could remember. I'm sure I was as a toddler, or as in between that toddler to 6, but I don't really have 6 years old. I don't really have now recollection of that.
Right.
But after that, I don't think I was. My sisters that were older than me, the 2 that lived in the house at the time that I was in probably middle school,
right.
They were a little bit more rebellious than I was. Mm-hmm. So they took a lot of the attention from my mom. And I didn't really do that much to begin with that deserved any disciplinary attention, I guess. But then in high school, I went over to live with my dad, and I didn't, again, really do anything bad.
Well, I've heard some stories. Maybe you didn't get caught.
That he caught me doing. Granted, I mean,
right.
The man was amazing, right?
Yes.
But he was very hearing impaired, and he refused to admit it.
And
so
you
I
used
could
that to your advantage.
Yes, you could literally open the garage door, start the car, get out of the garage, and close the garage door, and he would still be sleeping. And I mean, whether I had my license at that point in time is
up for debate,
not disclosed. But I mean, I didn't do anything super terrible. And then when I did do things that were terrible, I think the worst thing that I did was total my car.
Your car? Did you have a license then?
I did have a license then,
right.
But I wasn't where I was supposed to be. My dad did not discipline me. He just decided to not talk to me. So I decided to ground myself for 2 weeks in my room. Wow. I took my TV out of my room. I didn't do anything, didn't talk to my friends.
Your dad probably didn't even notice.
He probably didn't. But then I felt like I had done my penance, and I could move on, and I felt terrible. But yeah, I wasn't that bad of a kid. Now, values, I think that I think that was present. Although it wasn't really, we didn't have a whole lot of discussion about that. I mean,
you weren't forced to go into church or anything, but.
No, my dad held the same belief that I did. He was very, very religious person, and he had you
told me
faith.
that, and I never knew that. For all the years that I knew him, I did not know he was that religious. So
he was, and
he didn't push it on me.
No, he never pushed it on me. He would answer my questions that I had.
When I think of a religious person, I think of somebody that's overbearing and trying to get you to switch foods, like be vegan.
Right. Right.
So when someone says that someone is religious, I'm kind of cringe. But yeah, I didn't know that your dad was religious.
Yeah, his standpoint was essentially that he had a relationship with God, and he would communicate with them. He would read the Bible and do all those things on his own time, and he didn't really find the importance of going into a community and talking to him when he already had that relationship established, and he felt like it was a good relationship.
That was the bullshit that they told us in church. You need to go to church because if you're out in the world with a bunch of sinners, right?
Right.
You need to come into church with people that are pure.
Right.
Like that's what was pitched to us as kids.
And I mean, in all honesty, the funny thing is that I went to a religious-based camp every summer.
Yeah.
And I would spend like 2 weeks there every single summer. And then it got to be like high school. And I literally did not understand the difference between Christianity and being Catholic.
Yeah.
So I had a different Bible with me because I had the Bible that my dad would give me.
Yeah.
And that did not align with the type of
teachings that they had.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I was, I want to say 8th or 9th grade, that I was there one summer and somebody mentioned it. And I was like, well, why does that matter?
Right.
And it was like, I was so judged, openly judged. And people were like yelling at me. And it was an extremely uncomfortable position that I called my dad and made him drive 2 or 3 hours out of his way, pick me up, and I never went back. I was like, how could this be something so strong that you would be willing to fight somebody about it when you were super cool with me about 20 minutes ago?
Yeah, we won't get into that topic. I mean, we're kind of going down
a very different path
here, but yeah, that can be a whole nother podcast. And listen, we're not against people I'm not against people that believe in God, have this faith, have a religion. It's the people that hide behind it with their evil tendencies or bulliness or.
Yeah, that's where I struggle with, and that's the type of values that I kind of want to instill in our children is the just overall acceptance.
You can have your beliefs.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean you push on somebody else.
Exactly.
You don't judge them just because they don't believe or act or look the same way as you. So changing approaches, we're kind of talking about it already, like changing approaches on discipline, like how parenting styles have evolved. And we've already talked about a few things on here already where, my parents made me go to church. They made all 4 of us get up, early ass, crack of dawn, Sunday morning, which was our day off, to watch cartoons or play with friends or whatever, and go to church and sit there for anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, plus go to Sunday school.
Yeah.
And I would never want to do that to my kids because one, we're teaching them stuff or we're having them learn stuff that I don't 100% believe in. And
whether they end up believing in it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
They can make their own decision in the future.
Right.
Yeah. About the values, I think our values have stayed the same from what my parents' values are as far as, away from religion, but as far as treating others how you want to be treated, having family time, working hard, not giving up, all of those values.
Yeah. And I think that I really strive on wanting to have like family dinner and that one like point where we all connect, because I didn't have that a lot when I was younger.
We had it every Sunday.
Okay.
We tried to have it every Sunday because my dad would usually get home at like 8 o'clock at night, so the kids were already eating. But now, you and I do it, and the kids do it almost every single night.
Yeah, we pretty much have every meal together, you and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would agree with you that I think the dynamics and everything and the values kind of have went over into what we do as parents. And I don't think that has really changed. The one thing that I think that I have a lot of pressure, I put a lot of pressure on myself, is showing up. Is like I want to be at every single play,
right?
Every single band concert, soccer game, football game, practice. I want to be there so much that it's like annoying to them at how reliable I am.
I've thought about that shit before too. Like, I don't think we've ever been late picking them up. If it was like 30 seconds to a minute late of being there. And I thought, man, I could just relax a little bit and let my kid wait on me for 2 minutes. But we've always been reliable.
Yeah.
We've always been there.
There was that one time where we were late to picking up Braden because we were getting the cars.
Yeah, the cursed truck.
And the cursed truck, the one that
Yeah.
And I was driving, and I remember I was driving with Preston, and I had the GPS on there. I'm like, oh my God, we are going to be so late. He's going to think that I forgot about him.
Yeah.
And I was like on the brink of tears, and Preston was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, and I was literally like just white knuckling the steering wheel, just like talking myself up into like this panic.
Right.
And Preston's like, it's fine. He's fine. Like, stop being a fucking weirdo.
Well, we don't know how it is because we never dropped our kids off, or we never picked up our kids that late. So we don't even know how it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what happens.
In reality, when I was younger, I was the one that woke myself up.
Yeah.
Got myself breakfast.
Yeah.
Made sure that I made it to the bus stop.
Yeah, we do everything for them.
And got to school, and then got home, and I had a snack. And I didn't see my mom in the morning up until like 6 at night. And then my sisters were old enough to be out doing their own thing. Right. So I was like alone. I had to do my own thing and make sure that and then if I missed the bus and I had to call my mom,
you were in trouble.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, the showing up thing. You think about that going back to family values and how things have changed as far as how parenting styles have evolved, and how we state that we want to raise and parent our kids better than we were raised. And I think we have to look back at how our parents were raised. I don't know all the details, but when our parents were growing up, more than likely, it was still under that impression of kids are seen and not to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So anything that even though my dad worked, lots and lots of hours, even though my dad worked those hours, he did make his best attempt to show up to baseball games or, do the vacations or play a little bit of ball with me outside or throw the football or make sure that the family, barbecue on Sunday was, went off without a hitch. Where
with his crisp, clean iron Dockers.
Exactly. Yep. And house shoes.
Yep.
And, who knows? Maybe that is like a huge accomplishment from what his dad did with him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And now we are there more than what our parents were for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I know that's true. Like my dad would talk about how my grandpa would travel all the time, like gone all the time. And his one thing was like, he was going to make it home for Christmas.
Yeah.
And, but he was like gone all the time. My dad, when my sister and brother were growing up, I think he went to like every cross country meet, like all of the stuff that they did, hockey games, weightlifting, all of that. He made sure that he was there. And then when I came around, I was like in the height of his career, right?
Right.
And he was traveling a crap ton. And he stopped doing that so that he could like stay local and be present for
you
being with me. Yeah.
Now, discipline on how we have changed that from our kids from what our parents did. I wasn't abused. I wasn't beaten. I got spanks here and there. I got grounded. And our kids get the same thing. They get grounded. We very rarely, you don't. I very rarely have spanked them. Sometimes they do need a good swat on the behind. Hopefully CPS doesn't show up at my house for this. That's just ridiculous, by the way. So yeah, we do have groundings. We do put them in timeouts. Obviously the older ones understand that listening is a very important thing in this house. If you listen, you'll have a great day. That's it.
And it's not even like listening and bending to our rules. Like, we aren't dictators. No. It's like either like let's talk it out. Let's have a conversation.
Right.
But if I'm telling you like stop jumping on the couch, it's not a trampoline.
Deliberately doing the opposite of what we want them to do.
Right.
Or what is expected of them. That's when the timeouts come in. Or if one time Preston was riding his dirt bike and I was right behind him, and I don't think he knew that I was behind him on the golf cart, and he completely blew a stop sign.
Yeah.
So
Right.
he got grounded from his dirt bike. He tried to make up some excuses or something, and no, it's not going to fly. But
I
if there's
saw it
something
with my own eyes.
dangerous, it's going. You're going to get grounded from it if it's conscious not listening to us or not doing what you're supposed to do. You do get put in timeout or grounded. The one thing that I will not do, at least at this point in time, my thought process is I will not pull or suspend my kids from sports if they're not doing well in school. That was done to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't try out for the basketball team because of my grades. My mom wouldn't let me. And then on top of that, it was my second year on the men's volleyball team. I made the team, and then my mom pulled me from that.
Oof.
Yeah. So I would not do that
terrible.
with my kids.
No. I didn't.
Our kids.
I don't. You can take them.
Yeah, right.
No, I don't think that's worthy of any discipline in my eyes, because that's their, in a lot of cases, that's their passion. That's what they love doing. That's their escape.
That's an outlet that could possibly help change their grades.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, with me in school, art, like pottery, that was my escape.
Right.
That was like the one area where I knew that I was really good at, and nobody judged me. And it was, my outlet, my escape. There was no place where people could criticize me.
In your art?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was my little safe haven. And I don't think I would ever take that away from my kids. As long as it's still bringing them happiness, that's not something that I would ever take away from them as a form of discipline.
So what about emotional support and expression? The whole gentle parenting bullshit. I'm sorry. That's a load of shit. Like all these people, make memes about it or joke videos about it. The gentle parenting to where you can let a kid almost completely disrespect you and just get away with anything that they want, as long as you're not yelling at them and you let them know that you disapprove of it.
I feel like you are getting like a very small glimpse of what gentle parenting is. There are people out there, yes, that it's like no yelling or anything like that, but it's actually like gentle parenting is more so getting to the core. Understand.
That's not gentle parenting. That's talking to them like an equal.
Exactly. But then also having them understand, having those boundaries, setting those boundaries, having your kids set boundaries, and make sure that they understand what the consequences are if they go outside of those boundaries,
and not necessarily
not necessarily yelling or hitting or anything like that. It's more
gentle parenting to the extreme is a load of crap, right? If you want to say that we gentle parent, I don't think we do. I think that we treat our kids as equals, let them know what is expected of them. We'll listen to them, when something comes up, and we work out a solution for the most part, unless it's running with scissors, right?
Or jumping on the couch.
Jumping on the couch with scissors. Where, when I was a kid, it was, you do what I say, and we don't need to have a conversation about it.
Right.
So we listen. I don't know. Maybe I just don't like the term of gentle parenting because of everything that I've seen.
Yes, I think that the term itself, or what it's called, has gotten a bad rap. But I think that for the most part, we lean more towards gentle parenting than what you think. You might be making yourself get the ick right now, but that's kind of how we do things, babe.
No, that's called listening.
No,
that's called having a conversation. That's called not treating your kids like prisoners.
Yes.
That's not. Come on, stop. Move on. Let's go to the next one. I'm not happy about that. You calling me a gentle parent.
You brought it up.
No. So let's talk about the positive traditions that we have inherited from our parents or from our upbringing. I have a lot of positive traditions, especially the holidays, obviously.
Yeah, your mom would go all out for it.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter was one.
Mm-hmm.
One of the traditions that we used to do, that we don't do anymore when I was a kid, was like after Thanksgiving dinner, we would decorate the tree, which I know we do it on we do it Black Friday,
yeah.
right? But on Thanksgiving after dinner, we would, kind of wait before we decorated the tree, and I would kind of be sitting there in like the rocker in the front room, looking through all of the J.C. Penney's and Sears catalogs, all the new toys that came out and all that stuff. That's something I really enjoyed, and I know Amazon's coming out with their
catalogs and stuff. I hate it when they come in the mail and then the kids have it and everybody circles a bunch of bullshit that they don't really need that I'm going to end up throwing away.
Well, that's what we did with the J.C. Penney catalog.
I
mean, that was like the highlight of the year. It was amazing.
I understand. And Braden's the exact same. Like he loves it when he gets that and he gets the Target and he will literally not touch his actual reading book and just look through that thing for hours before bedtime.
And Max turns it into an arts and crafts project.
Yes.
He wants to cut it out and paste it and all that stuff. So,
yeah. No, I know they love it, but.
So what traditions did your family have that you either like or you, so back to mine, we have brought those, kind of big traditions or big holidays back to our family where we try to make Christmas, bigger than what my parents made for us. And ours was not small.
Right.
If you listen to the other podcasts, the other shows before this, you know that I like to try to have a big splash at every party or every get together. Try to.
Yes, you do.
So what traditions were?
Did we carry over from my side?
Yeah. Did you carry any over?
I don't think so.
No.
We didn't have a whole lot of traditions. I would say. I mean,
we adopted your dad's Christmas on Christmas morning.
Yeah, the Christmas Story.
Oh yes.
Watching the Christmas Story. He would watch that on loop.
Yep.
So I mean, traditionally, from a broken home, my dad would get me for Christmas Eve, and then I would have to go back to my mom's house. So he would spend Christmas Day by himself, and that's what he would do. He would watch A Christmas Story. So then when I moved in with him, it was kind of the reverse. I would just we would do all of the Christmas parties that we would have to do at the various spots. And then
I think one year you and I went to like 5 or 6 Christmases, all for the family.
Yes, because that's how
it was probably 4. It wasn't 5.
Diverse and separated my family, my immediate family.
Right. Yes. Not broken.
Yes.
Just apart.
Yes. Like a very large 500-piece puzzle.
Yes. And you're missing one piece.
Yeah, that's how it is. But yeah, so that's one thing that he would do, and then also getting an ornament every year.
We stopped doing that. Oh, I restarted it this year.
Yes, you did. Yep. We stopped doing it because of COVID, and then laziness.
We used to go up to Bronner's.
Yeah, and then that stopped.
I
feel like
I hated that. I did not like that chicken up there.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah, that restaurant was. I think it was the time of year we went.
No, I feel like it's just the chicken.
Just terrible.
We can confirm that it's just the food. Everybody does it because that's the thing that you do there.
Yeah.
But nobody enjoys it.
If they had a KFC next door, they'd clean up.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, lessons learned. Like what key lessons did we learn from our parents, right? And to go back a little bit, we did want to have people on this show. We did want to have people call in as far as our family members.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to do that we'll probably visit this later on once, my side of the family is actually more comfortable being on a microphone or opening up to showing their stories, and that it's not a scary place to be in.
Right.
And it's not to cut them down. It's just to get more information on the past and the history. So we will do that, hopefully do that in the future of, how we were raised versus how our parents were raised. Now, going back to it is, what key lessons did we learn from our parents that are passed down?
That's a really good question. Some key lessons that one thing that my dad would say consistently to me was be the example.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I have really pushed on our kids. Not necessarily, go out there and be the best at anything,
Mm-hmm.
but more so be the best version of yourself and have that version be the example that other people follow.
Right.
And so I think that is one lesson. And then also, don't be a dick.
Well, it's kind of along the same lines, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he that was pretty much enforced in our house. Just don't be a really shitty person.
Right.
And yeah, I think, what about you?
Yeah, mine would be, going back to hard work, treat others how you want to be treated, don't lie, and yeah, just respect other people's decisions,
Yeah, whether
and
you
their
agree or not.
beliefs, whether
Yeah.
you agree or not. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and another thing that I think was like, don't quit. We don't quit.
yeah,
I don't put that
I,
on our kids very hard, unless it's sports related, because that is very expensive. And
I
if you're
do
going to agree to that, you're going to be doing it for the season. All
I
right,
do put
bud.
that on them though. Like
What?
if like if I signed up for football when I was a kid, which I did, and I didn't enroll the second season, my parents, I don't remember them saying one dang thing about why don't you want to play again.
Right.
There was no conversation there, and I
No.
think if there was the conversation there, I probably would have played again if I could. If I would have talked it out with my mom or my dad.
Probably.
But Preston wanted to quit. We would not let him.
No. Yeah, and that's one thing that
Yeah, we're just
that
not.
we just don't stand for.
No.
That's how I was kind of raised. And I think that is important to put onto our kids, because it helps build character. It helps them like really assess what they are doing before they commit to it. And
Right.
then it also helps them build that accountability and reliability for other people.
Yeah. So there are generational differences, right, between our parents, their parents before them, where it came from, obviously just differences in between, genders, even how men and women treated each other, how men looked at their wives, right? Like that changed, I'm sure, within their generations back then. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but I
And
feel
then
like we're right in smack dab
going
in
back
the,
into
yeah,
it.
it's weird. Full circle.
Yeah. So, and then there, as kids, you were taught to be, you were taught to be seen and not heard. Where we are not doing that with our kids. Our kids have a voice. They can let us know their feelings, how they're feeling, what they disagree with, what they don't, whether we're going to change our rules, punishments, penalties, rewards around that. That's up to us, but we're at least going to listen to them. Breaking the cycle of some things that our parents did that we already talked about, more so on your side,
Yeah.
of just being there.
Yeah.
Being very interested in whatever they are into.
Yeah. And I mean,
they're the first thing you see in the morning, they're the last thing that you see at night.
Yes. And I agree with that. And I think that my there are a lot of things that I'm breaking the cycle with.
Yeah.
A lot of things that I have to work on in myself, so that I don't repeat the cycle with my kids or our kids. And I think that is probably the hardest thing about parenting, and they don't really talk about that.
Yeah.
And how like parenting essentially just brings in a lot of your broken parts of your childhood.
Yeah.
And that you have to kind of fix
and work through.
Yeah.
And how am I going to approach this situation?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of that, like I want my kids to rely on me 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can count on me. They know that I'm going to be there. And then I also, on the other side of things, like I want to make sure that they don't ever feel like they are an imposition and that they are a burden and that they, I don't know, I just don't want them to ever feel bad about just
You're getting
existing.
a little emotional?
No, I'm fine.
You are getting emotional. Talk about it.
No, it's just I just want them to be happy.
They are happy.
I know.
You're gonna make me cry now too. You know how I'm empathetic, where I'm like, if someone's sick, I'm gonna be sick. If you cry, I'm gonna cry. Knock it off.
Yeah. No. And so I think that's the one thing that I probably would
They are happy. You were there for them so much. So much more than me. They're very happy. You make them happy. You're their rock. Moving on to a brighter topic, I guess.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about this yet, is like the big difference between our parents not having to deal with us in social media and electronics and devices and computers and tablets, where we, my kids don't know a past without a phone or even a computer. My kids don't know that.
Yeah. And I mean, even like putting it into like the simplest terms possible, they do not know how to play a video game, or they do not have the capacity, the emotional capacity to play a video game that does not allow you to save it.
Or go online.
Right. No,
yeah,
I'm saying like you get 3 lives, and then if you die,
you're done.
You start all the way at the beginning, all the way at the beginning.
This is bullshit.
Right.
I remember my brother Chris. Oh my God, when we got the Super Nintendo, and that was the thing. Like if you died, you would go back to the beginning,
100%.
and he would slam that controller on the ground, like on the basement concrete. I don't know how that shit didn't break. Like they used to make stuff better back then than they do now, right?
And now like a Joy-Con for a Nintendo Switch breaks within like 30 days.
Yeah, just from like running. So yeah, I mean, we didn't have the technology back then, and the worst that my parents could, be concerned about is if I watched, something on MTV, Britney Spears being all, sexy on MTV.
It was risky.
Yeah, and that was it, or something on BET that I wasn't supposed to listen to,
or downloading like a virus on Napster.
Yeah, Napster. But I mean, even that came out when I was in, I want to say high school.
I was in middle.
Oh, whatever. So yeah, we have those, different things to change, and obviously, or to work through, that our parents didn't have to work through. And our kids will have, if they become parents, if they decide to have kids, they'll have additional electronics or devices or holograms or whatever it is. You're laughing, but have you seen the things that they've came out with that, I don't know if they've launched or not yet, but obviously they have the technology in the ring, right?
Yeah.
But they have technology on your wrist that's kind of like a watch, and it projects your phone screen down.
Stop it.
It's like a hologram, so your arm turns into your phone.
It's kind of like wait, what was that one Justin Timberlake movie? Justin Timberlake, Olivia Wilde.
Time.
Yeah. And then they would like
Out of Time or something like that.
Wait, no, that's not the same concept.
It's not the same concept. They would die.
But I feel like we're going there. I mean, let's be real.
I wouldn't be surprised. So going to, the balance of old and new.
Yeah.
We take some of what we learned, the good stuff from our parents, and also the bad stuff, right? And we adapt from that and change it to the way that we think that we would have been wanted to be raised or disciplined.
Yeah.
So, and then we come up with our own new rules or new games. We would get grounded. We would get punished in my family, as far as, something taken away from us, or grounded from seeing our friends, or grounded to our room. Things along those lines. Achievements, if you did something good. I mean, I honestly can't remember what would happen if you did something good. Listen, I was a horrible kid. Horrible kid.
You were not.
No,
you
I
were
was
rebellious. You were Braden.
Yeah.
Braden is not horrible.
Most of my issues when I was a kid revolved around school.
Yeah.
I had the most attentions in my family. I had, the most calls home. I had all this, bad stuff at school with bad grades and all my homework was stuck in my locker, and we had to have parent teacher conferences more than normal kids, and detentions and stealing from the school.
Yeah.
I just didn't like being at school, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy because if that's boring to me, even to this day, some learning stuff is a lot of stuff is boring to me. Even to this day, I can even watch a documentary that's 2 or 3 hours long and be fascinated by it. So if I'm fascinated by these World War II, these history things, where my teachers couldn't keep my attention.
You're a visual learner.
Yeah.
You're an visual and auditory learner.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we did when we were younger was all written based. It was all dry explanation and worksheets. That's not your jam. That's never been your jam.
So I got
There's
in trouble
not an ounce of creativity in that, and you bleed creativity.
I don't know if I bleed creativity, but
you do. I've seen your blood.
So I was in trouble a lot as a kid. So I don't think we celebrated myself that much. Besides, after the baseball game, you'd go out and get ice cream with your team, or the book it at Pizza Hut. If you read a certain amount of books and stuff, you would go and do that. Now, listen, my childhood wasn't horrible. My childhood was fine. It was good. But as far as I remember my disciplines more, my punishments more than I remember any achievements, accomplishments, celebrating those. And that could be obviously on me as a child. So there is
that
old
isn't on you as a child.
Well, being a bad kid.
Okay, but so just take a second. You weren't a bad kid.
I was a bad kid.
We
don't need to get into this on this.
You made bad choices, and then also a lot of the choices that you made were because you were rebellious and you were in an area that you didn't enjoy.
Right.
So if anybody took a second and put pieces together, you probably would have had a lot of different avenues.
We try to give our kids every opportunity to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we know their strengths, and we know their weaknesses. So whether they are good, they complete something good with their strengths, we still celebrate it. Whether they complete something good or try hard with their weakness, and they do well, we celebrate it. Right?
And I mean, that is also saying that our celebrating is just acknowledging and congratulating a lot of the time, and then making sure
it's not
that
buying them shit all the time, right? Yeah,
and making sure that they are aware that what they just did was a huge challenge, and they should be proud of themselves for completing that or trying that, what the outcome was.
Right. Now, future focused parenting. What do we hope for our kids?
Long term, I hope my kid is emotionally balanced enough to not need therapy.
No, I agree. Yeah, I hope that they have very good mental strength, no anxiety. I do hope that we do instill that family is important to them.
Mm-hmm.
We instill the importance of being financially smart.
Yes.
Being emotionally intelligent, not just academically. I also want them to be not just book smart, but street smart.
Yeah. And I mean, we have 3 boys. One of my biggest things is I want to make sure that they are emotionally mature.
Right.
I want to make sure that they are empathetic, that they are okay with showing their emotions.
Yep.
That they are supportive of other people, and that they understand the difference between, or not even the difference between, that they understand how to treat somebody that they choose to have a relationship with.
Right. Respect.
Yep. And what healthy relationships look like.
Right.
And also financially, financially smart is huge in my mind because
I wasn't told. I mean,
I had to teach you everything.
Yeah, I mean, you had to teach me everything. I didn't learn shit in school about finances. That's probably because I just didn't pay attention in school, maybe, or maybe they just don't do it. I mean, the first time I wrote it, I learned how to, write a check was my graduation, right?
Oh,
because of all the graduation checks. That was the first time I learned to sign that stuff. And then, my parents didn't do with me what we do with our kids, as far as like, oh, Max, you want a Lego and you have X amount of money in your bank? Okay. You give me money for your Lego and let mom take a little bit of the other money in your Lego and put it in your savings account.
Yeah.
Right. So we're doing smart things, showing them what they should be doing with saving, and not just spending the money, just like we talked about in a previous episode with Preston and the landscaping company or the lawn care company. His friend went out and bought stuff with his money. Well, we told Preston, like, no, that needs to go back into the business.
Yeah, 50%.
Yeah.
Take 50% of that and you treat yourself. The other 50, put it back in.
Now, one thing that I don't do that I thought I would change because of my dad, he was such a hard worker, he still works working to this day, even though he's supposed to be retired, is not working so hard. That's one thing that I just can't put down for some reason. I don't know why. I can't just not stop working. I just have a fear, I think, of not having more and more income, not more and more physical items, right? Not a bigger house, not a bigger car, just not having extra income.
Yeah,
right?
You want fuck you money.
Yeah, but it's not like we need it, right? I don't know. It's just something that is there instilled in me from my dad to work hard, and there'll be enjoyment later. So I do hope that our kids are able to find something they enjoy. I mean, my true hope for them is that they can start a business and have everybody work for them, and they can do whatever they want. Right? That's my.
I mean, in terms of like professional and career based, my dad always said that if you are the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I've always remembered. And I think I was only in the wrong room once.
Yeah. That's when you met me.
No.
Too late.
Gotcha.
Yep.
No. And that's, and I think that is something that I want to make sure that they understand too. Like, always strive to be the best version of yourself, but also fully understand your value. Yeah. And don't let anybody diminish that or tell you otherwise.
Yeah. This entire show really to sum it up is, or this entire episode to sum it up is, we always want better for our kids than what we had. Whether you had a horrible upbringing or a great upbringing, right? Whether you had tons of money or you had zero money, you always want to have better for your kids. And that's I think that's what every single parent wants, whether when they want their kids to have more than what they had. Mm-hmm. Whether that's love, money, respect, physical items, tangible items, and that's,
or even location. Like, like I don't think that I drove by like where I used to live with Preston in
a safer environment.
Yeah. And he was like, what is going on? Yeah. And it's just how, he essentially was kind of jaded as to how other places or how other people live. And, I kind of felt like I might have been doing a disservice, but then I also was kind of proud of ourselves for getting him to a point where he didn't even realize that was an area and like an option.
Yeah, we just need
an environment.
Whenever they say that they don't have enough, we just need to drive them through
downtown.
Yeah.
No.
Downtown Detroit. Don't clean it up too much, guys, down there. I know you guys are doing great work. We got to scare our kids every once in a while. So keep at least one street bad for us. So
Just the dollhouses.
Yeah. So we always want better than what our parents have. We hope that we can have this same type of conversation, podcast type of show, when our family members are available and ready to be involved in it, because I'd love to ask them some questions, especially my dad. Unfortunately, my mom's not around to ask her any questions, and your dad's not around to ask him questions. But we do have other people in our family that we could talk to about how they were raised. And you being from a, kind of a separated family or a broken family, you have siblings that had different moms,
Parents.
right?
Yeah, moms and dads.
Yeah, so that can definitely shine a different light on how they were raised. So
and generation. I mean, there was a few decades between. So I mean, I know that I parented Preston a lot different than I parented Max. And there's a full 8 years gap there.
We were first time parents with Preston.
Well, yeah, I mean, our
hair out.
We do different things with with Max than we did with Braden.
Yeah.
So that gap can change a whole lot in what you do as a parent.
Yeah. And maybe that's why Braden acts the way he is, because Preston had more experience of us as younger, as not as financially stable. And then Braden is probably a little bit more spoiled because
we were at the peak.
We were at a better peak in our lives, right? We started climbing the mountain then.
Yeah,
a little bit faster. So the final thought on this would be, acknowledge that parenting is a journey and that there is no perfect way to raise children, but rather a balance of having and learning from both the past and present. We appreciate everyone listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments, suggestions, any ideas that you'd like for us to speak about on the next podcast, please feel free to reach out to us on social media. I don't know if I said this before, but our TikTok is working now. So we are on there, spreading nice, good, and positive vibes. And you can watch this show, this podcast, on YouTube. So that comes out the same day that the podcast does, every Thursday. Once again, we appreciate you listening. I'm Matt.
I'm Deanna.
And this is Chasing Balance.
Real life parenting, one conversation at a time.
We'll see you guys later.
Bye.